Hi, welcome back to A Creative Affair. I'm Brie, and I'm here with Len Metcalf, all the way over in Australia, which is so fun for me. So, if you don't know, I'm based in Texas, and it's just super fun to have these conversations from literally opposite sides of the world, right, Len?
Oh, it's absolutely amazing. And to think that we've met on the internet in a discussion, and here we are years later, still talking and still discussing really interesting things.
And still meeting on the internet because we haven't met in person yet. We will fix that one day. We'll let you all know.
We definitely will. We definitely will. I can feel a tour of America coming up in my future.
I know.
And I think you should feel a tour of Australia coming up in yours too.
I feel it. Yes, I feel it in mine for sure. Okay, today let's get right into what we're going to chat about. We are going to talk about how to recharge our creativity. Like, how do we do that? And we have a very specific way that we want to talk about. So let's just get into it. Len, how do you recharge your creativity?
Well, actually, I'm right in the middle of this right now, Brie. So
Ooh.
I feel like it's a very good time to be talking about this, and that is to have a little bit of a break and to put things down and give myself a break of actually doing the things that I would normally do. Now, I'm not having a break from creativity. I'm having a break from the things that I usually fill my life up with to do. And do you know what's happening, Brie? My mind's exploding with ideas. And yesterday I had to go up to the newsagent or the art shop and buy another journal and start filling it up with another whole set of crazy ideas because my mind has been absolutely going um, bonkers in the most beautiful, creative way by having a break.
That's wonderful. I think a lot of times we think that having a break kind of might be a bad thing because we love our creative work so much that sometimes we can't fathom taking like stepping away from it for a bit. But look, what you just told us really proves that it can actually recharge us in a really special way. So, how does that do you do this and I know you do this sometimes and I do this too. Maybe mine is more unconscious, but I'm wondering, do you do this consciously, or do you just find yourself in the middle of a break and go, oh, here I am taking a break. Didn't realize I was doing it, but here I am. So how does that work for you?
I definitely do both. So at this time of year, with the season that's happening, we've just had New Year and all the merriment of Christmas and those sort of things. Australia stops, and there's all these public holidays, and I stop working. I give myself a holiday. My son has school holidays, so I actually structure in a school holiday. So I actually artificially create a break, and part of that's imposed on me. It's not a actual choice, some of that, but a lot of it is. It's to say, okay, it's been a long year. I've got this new year going now. I want to have quite a little bit of a set break. So this one I'm having at the moment is actually sort of structured in, and it is a structured break. But actually, the best ones are unstructured, where I actually find myself just slipping into them and noticing that they're happening. And I think a fallacy that is promoted by many books is that you have to produce creative stuff every day. You know, we're told that we have to journal in our journals daily. We have to do our morning pages. We need to, you know, create a new photograph and post it on Instagram every day. And we have this incredible build up for doing something every day. And, you know, Creative February is like it's a daily thing. It's really good when you find yourself stepping back from that to allow yourself to do that.
Mm,
So both, Brie,
yeah.
intentionally and unintentionally.
Yeah, for sure. I find myself doing that too. And for me, I think something like Creative February can be a break because I might actually not do a lot of photographic work, which is my normal creative outlet. So, and by the time this comes out, it will be Creative February. So I'll be already in the midst of doing And actually, I am going to be experimenting with some watercolors and some painting. And I think there's so many ways that we can recharge our creativity and take that break. And for me, one of them is stepping away from what how I normally create and doing something totally different and allowing my mind to rest from the work that I normally do. And let's face it, work doesn't have to be like hard or bad or anything like that, but making photographs and editing and sharing and putting them into collections and or creating ebooks or whatever it is, that all can feel like that's all work and that's great. But it's nice to be able to put it aside for a little bit and do a different kind of work in a different kind of space. There's also, like you said, that time I find where I just totally put it down and I don't do any of it. And I find myself doing that really unconsciously. Like I'm almost afraid to do it on purpose, if that makes sense. I don't know that I've ever done it on purpose.
I'll give it a go, Brie.
I know. Maybe I need to like coach myself around like why I'm afraid to do this on purpose. Let me think for a minute.
Well, we're really stuck in this. I have to keep going, and we end up in a rhythm, and it's actually the rhythm and that momentum that we love to play with, and we ride that so beautifully. And I really have a question here for you, Brie. What's the value in having this break? Like, what do we get out of it? Like, there must be something other than just time out of it.
I actually sent this out to my email list. I talked about taking a break and why this can be, really good. And I invited actually everyone on my email list to take a moment. This was over Christmas, like the holiday break, New Year's, that time that you were just talking about, where everyone's celebrating and we're with family. A lot of times we're with family, and could we just allow ourselves to have a break? And the reason why it can be so important is because all of the work that we do, the creative work takes energy. And if we are producing and producing and producing, then we can sometimes end up feeling depleted. And even when we know that our creative work gives us like feels energetic, like if I go out and I go on a hike and make some photographs, it feels kind of energetic. But it really does it takes physical and mental energy. And sometimes it's just important to put it aside so that we can recharge ourselves because we need to allow our brains to have us time to be still to actually regenerate and and then like you said, like you are having a break and now you're starting to make maybe some new connections and you're coming up with all these new ideas. And I think this goes back to Austin Kleon's book, Steal Like an Artist, where I think it's in Steal Like an Artist, where he talks about being bored. Like that boredom actually recharges us and we get more creative in the process. That's that. So just physically putting it aside can be super, super helpful. So there's one other way, but thoughts. What are your thoughts?
Well, I was wondering about our disconnect between our consciousness and our subconsciousness, and having a bit of a break allows the two to catch up. And I find that during the break, when I have all these other creative ideas and my mind goes nuts, and as I was just talking earlier about, but when I actually come back to making art again, I find I've had a huge shift. And this is why I love it so much is that it's after this little break, well, it depends on how big it is, but it's after the break that there's a whole lot of the learnings that I've been having for the last however long start to actually materialize into my work. Like I've been thinking about things and they're all floating around as ideas, but they actually don't surface in my work until I have this time where I set everything down. And then when I pick it up again, I really notice this shift in the looks that I'm doing, the things that I'm focusing on in the actual work, and I think it's an improvement, and it's like a jump, and we our mentally, and this is why I think we're also scared to have a break, is we think that, oh, without all this continual practice, I'm not going to get better. But I've actually found I actually get better by having a break. Like my muscle memory is better. You can push yourself too hard and not get anywhere. I was sort of thinking maybe a musical analogy might be good here, Brie. Like you're practicing your flute and you're working on something and you work on it all day. And we have this saying, sleep on it. And you get up the next morning and you try and you suddenly get the piece. And that time overnight has allowed you to sort it all out, and then suddenly you make that jumble. But the continual practice of it leading up to it didn't actually materialize in that actual step. It helped, but you needed that little break and that relaxation for it to come. Have you ever had that happen?
I was just thinking, how did you know exactly how it works when I practice my flute? And because there's
Oh,
something that happens when you practice, you're making new connections in your brain. And then when you sleep on it, your brain has time to like solidify those connections so that next time it's kind of like muscle, there's synaptic connections and there's also muscle synaptic memories and muscle memories. And anyway, they all work together so that it's the next time you actually can just play it. And I've totally had this where it's so hard for me to get it, so I'm like, okay, I've practiced this enough. I don't know if it's where I want to be, but then the next time I go to practice it, it automatically clicks. You know, I was thinking,
mm,
do you know what I mean? So I was actually
totally.
thinking that I'm not afraid to take a break because I sometimes find myself unconsciously taking one and it's not a problem. I think I just never have on purpose taking one. Maybe my intuition, maybe it's not a problem that I haven't done one on purpose because maybe my intuition just naturally causes me to have a little break. So the one thing that I think will keep us from really enjoying the break, because I think a lot of times we take a break and we're like, oh, maybe you're feeling like you're in a creative block if you're not producing. So the one thing that could keep us from enjoying the break, and I want to say if you take a break, I think you should absolutely enjoy it. Yeah. So,
Definitely. Oh, yes.
right? So one thing that could keep us from enjoying it is really some of the negative criticism about taking the break and why we're taking a break. And so if you have some like maybe some judgment about why you're not producing or some thoughts that you should be producing, that can all contribute that you're not actually taking a break. Like your brain is still thinking about it and spinning all of it around, and you're thinking about how you should be working and all of that stuff, and that's actually your mind is still using a lot of energy, like energy that you could be using to be creative or to be relaxing and recharging. So I would say if you could take out some of the shoulds, like what could you be doing? Maybe it's okay. This is why we're making this episode, is we're telling you it's totally great to take a break because you actually need it. Like your creativity needs it.
So much of this is about timing, isn't it? Do you think? If you're doing a really big project, say you're making a book and you finally get it and out it goes, and it's actually you've got it in your hands and you've done all this work and you've been working on it for a long time, that little space before you launch into the next one. And that could be a
Yeah.
natural place to have a break. Or if you'd been studying and you finish a course and you might be doing a year long course and it all comes to a head at the end of November, beginning of December, and there's a natural break before the next semester. And that's another opportunity to lay down the tools and do something else. Sometimes, like when I have an exhibition, I feel like I need a break afterwards because there's so much physicalness and it's so exhausting running around and doing all those wonderful things that I'm actually physically exhausted, and then mentally, of course, I'm shattered. And then the break happens quite naturally. But I have also been in a position where I'm hanging the show and I'm actually planning the next one in my head as I'm hanging, and not even at the stage of pulling it down, but as I'm actually hanging it up, going, oh, there's so many ideas, and it's actually so invigorating that I don't need a break. And so the trigger for having a break isn't universal. This is something that's very, very personal. And I think noticing that you need one needs to be a good trigger for doing that. And, uh, you know, worrying about having this being scared to have one, that's something we need to work on in our minds. Because, as we're talking, this is the whole purpose of this episode, is to convince you and to convince ourselves that, hey, this is a really good thing. This is going to be healthy for me. I'm going to improve. My work's going to be so much better. I'm going to be a better creative when I acknowledge that I need a break and I just enjoy it.
Those are some really lovely thoughts that actually are super motivating to take a break, but also to carry you through the break. And I think I would like tack on this one at the end, which is, and I trust myself to know how long of a break I need and when I want to start creating again. Because I think sometimes we hesitate to take the break because we're worried that we're going to somehow lose our creativity. This is just for me. I don't know for everyone like what that would be, but we might be worried that we might lose our creativity, and then also we might not trust ourselves. Like we might be worried about when we're going to pick it up again. And if I can think to myself, yeah, and I trust myself to know when I want to pick it back up again, that is also super helpful because then I'm listening internally to those nudges again that pull me into creating again. I actually felt this what you were talking about, Len, just being exhausted and ready for the break after I finished my first like my personal exhibition. People were like, "Now what are you going to do?" I'm like, I don't know. I kind of don't want to do anything. Like I'm done. Like I'm not done with photography, but
I
like
know that
I'm
feeling
done right
totally.
now. Like I just right. And it was almost like in 1 year I had put myself through like a 2 year master's program. And I was like, yeah, I kind of just want to be done. I just want to like edit sometimes if I want to. I like didn't for at least a month, maybe even more. And I couldn't tell you the amount of time that it was. I literally just allowed myself to do whatever I wanted whenever I wanted. I was like, oh, if I didn't feel like it that day, I didn't do anything. I actually don't even remember going out with my camera a lot. I was like, I'm just going to do, if it seems interesting, I'm going to do it, but I'm not going to like do anything on purpose for a little bit. And I felt like that was really healthy to be able to step back, and it helped me reevaluate where I was. It helped me kind of relish in the event, especially when we're coming out of event, like in a gallery, like a, your own gallery
Mm.
show, that it's really lovely to have people come and see the work and, put it out and show the world. And so that gave me time to have some personal reflection and also kind of just let myself relax. And it did, in hindsight, it really did recharge my creative batteries. Did you have something else to say? Because I have one other thing.
Oh, yeah, there's lots to say, but one of the words you just kept using then is the word recharge, and reflect, think. Our minds need time, don't they, to process, to understand, to reevaluate, to absorb. Now, all of those words I've just used are things that describe consciousness, don't they? The things that we do consciously. But also our subconscious also needs to do that as well, and it occupies a much larger part of our brains, this subconsciousness. It needs time as well to process, to reform, to formulate, to think about things, and to reconnect and come back through in other ways. So uh, I think there's an incredibly valid set of reasons why having a break is very, very valuable. I did also want to mention that, like, I'm a fan of Brooks Jensen over at Len's work, and he talks about the word fallow ground, that you stop and you allow things to sit in this idea of, recharging your creativity. I've done this over periods of years where I put my camera down and all my art, and I've gone and pursued other parts of my life and then come back and pick them up years later. And I found that I'm actually really, really powerful and have improved in that time. And then just recently, I put down a photographic genre, and I picked it up after a year, and that's incredibly valuable as well. So that it doesn't just have to be totally stopping creativity; it can just be, oh, I've been working on this project for a while. Oh, I needs to rest, and then when I come back, oh, hey, it's changed, and then maybe another genre gets rested in that process as well. So I think there's multiple ways of thinking about um, recharging your creativity without just suddenly stopping and going, well, that's it. It could just be giving one part of it a rest and then allowing time for other parts to surface.
I think that's so wise and such a valuable thing to remember that we can still create in other ways while giving other parts a break. So good. I was also thinking too that another way we can another way we can give ourselves a break, I think, is taking a mental kind of a mental break. Like we are talking about the connection between the physical things that we do and how we think about them, mentally, maybe emotionally. But I think that it's also really important to just give ourselves a break. Like, like taking some time. What I'm laughing over here, but so I'm trying to figure out exactly how to word this. But what I would encourage everyone to do is whether or not you keep creating, if you could take like a week or maybe more and just give yourself a break from judging your work like negatively, like negative critique, telling yourself what you should be doing, and just in general, give it because we do this, right? Like, don't we do this sometimes? We're like our own worst critic. Like, could we take a break from all of that for a week, a day, a week, 2 weeks? And what would that mean for our creativity? How could that recharge our creativity when we're not having some of the negative chatter going on in our heads, about our own work, right? And I know when I do that, when I take a step back and I feel exhausted when I've been judging my work in a really negative way. I actually mentally am exhausted. And it's a cue for me to step back and go, whoa, what's happening here? And when I can recognize how harsh I've been to myself, then I can start releasing all of it and go, okay, how can I love my work right now? Or just take out all of that negative judgment for just a little while. So, do you find yourself doing that? Like, isn't it exhausting?
I've got a beautiful metaphor for you, Brie, and that is stepping back and giving yourself a different perspective. And we might remember that movie Dead Poets Society, and Robin Williams stands up on the desk as the teacher and says, look at the world differently, boys, from a different perspective. Now, we can do that with our art. It's just stepping back from it. Like at art school, we'd put our artworks on the other wall, and we'd go and sit in the lounge chairs at the other side of the room and have a coffee and a cigarette or whatever and talk and actually look at our work from a different perspective. And sometimes we even turned it upside down and we'd contemplate what was going on. And that space from our work, our physical space, was actually very, very valuable. And I think that this idea about space and giving you a recharge can be much bigger than just physically putting a little bit of distance there, but, setting it aside and then coming back. And I have mentioned before, I love to set my work aside for a long period of time before I reevaluate it and even look at it properly. So this this rest actually gives me an incredible sense of recharge, and that distance, things happen in that space that are magical. It's about magic, and it's creating more magic in your life, isn't it?
Dang, are we back to the magic again? We are always talking about the magic of this. So that's what I think it is. Like we're saying, hey, take a break. But we just kind of laid out some of the magic that happens when you do it. And what I do know is that
Mm,
you don't know how it's going to affect you, how it's going to really what new connections you're going to make. You don't know what kind of magic you're going to create until you try it. And so that's why we're really encouraging y'all to take a little bit of a step back. I love that, change your perspective and just recharge yourself. So good. We really can learn so many things. We've already shared how it has helped us. So good.
it is. It is. And but by the sounds of that note, it's time to encourage you all to take a break and to allow your minds to recharge. Allow that extra bit of creativity to come flowing back in a new form and flood you with new ideas. And we really hope that you do enjoy and find the magic in taking a break. So it's time to say goodbye, isn't it, Brie?
Yes, so good. Thanks, Lynn. Loved the conversation. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Till next time. Thank you for joining us in our creative affair. If you love the passion we bring to this creative content, please support the podcast by sharing with a friend, subscribing, and leaving us a review. To find out more about Brie's work, including her gorgeous photography and mentoring in her Creative Confidence Group Coaching Program, please visit her at creativemindscoach.com. If you'd like to learn more about creative photography, you can find me at lenmetcalf.com, where you can find links to my photography school, videos, and publications. I would so love you to sign up to my newsletter. Well, until next time, we hope you enjoy your creative life. It's time to say goodbye for now.